Hi everyone, my name is Steph. This is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to my April top 5 books. If you're unfamiliar with this little series, it's where I pick my top 5 books from the month of April, talk a little bit more about them. So if you don't want to go through all of my weekly wrap-ups, these are my top 5 books for the month, as well as some basic stats, not the same amount of stats that I go through in my quarter stats videos, and also a quick overview of everything that should have come out for me in April. So quickly starting off with the stats, I read 46 books this month, which equated to a total of 11,919 pages, and there were also 5,524 reading minutes from audiobooks included in there. I do have one book that I am carrying over from the month of April, which is not included in those stats at the moment. I had 10 total DNFs throughout the month. My most read genre was romance, with the most read sub-genre being paranormal romance, because with the Love in the Night readathon, so I think I read 9 paranormal romances across the month. In terms of savings from my library, or from using my library, I saved around $97 this month. From Kindle Unlimited, I read $73-ish worth of ebooks, but minus my subscription cost, that comes down to $56-ish. And also it takes me into the green for the rest of the year, because I've officially read the equivalent of the monthly subscription cost already for the year, so that's always good. In terms of new arcs that came into my collection, I've saved $131.21. I did spend $175 on books. Oops, is all I have to say to that. In terms of videos and content that came out this month, I had 5 weekly Book Steep videos, because there was a bonus one the week of the Love in the Night readathon, because I had 2 different types of content, so there was a bonus one in there. You also had my first anthology diary video for the year, which was for Southern Skies, my first quarter stats video, the Love in the Night tri-chapter edition video, which was a lot of fun. I do enjoy a tri-chapter video. I had a weekend reading vlog where I read one of my most anticipated releases for the year, Charming Pup Boy, and also my March top 5 video. There was supposed to be more content, but life happened. So my top 5 books, I do put these in an order. I go from 5th to 1st, and these can range anywhere from a 4 to a 6-star read for me. My 6 stars being usually my absolute favorite authors and rereads and things like that, although I don't include rereads in my top 5 anymore, just because we're trying to include new to me reads. Although there is a book on this list that I have reread multiple times this month, so take that as you will. Coming in 5th place is We Burn So Bright by TJ Klune. Now, this did not get a 5-star, but it is one of those books that you kind of read and you walk away and you think about it. So this is a queer story, but it is a science fiction dystopian kind of story, because it's about the end of the world. And the world does end at the end of the book, so there is no happily ever after. Earth is gone. And it is the story of a married couple who know that Earth has a few weeks at best left before a black hole comes close enough to tear the world apart. The entire world is slowly watching their outer solar system succumb to this until finally, satellites and things no longer function, and they're using visual cues like the fact that the moon is impacted. From the very start of the book, we know they have a journey to make, and they are talking about someone who was very close to them. Eventually find out it is the son that they adopted, who throughout his life dealt with a number of mental health illnesses, including schizoaffective disorder. He was the light of their life, but he was also their biggest heartbreak. And they are traveling to a place. It was one of the places where they had the best memories together as a family, to spread the last of his ashes because their son died. Along the way, they're meeting a lot of different people who are also traveling at the end of the world, and everyone is coping with it differently. Some of them are in denial. Some of them are trying to live the last moments of their life in the best way that they possibly can, and finding joy in the small moments that they have left. And others have been completely affected by this and had complete breaks in their sanity. And it's a really interesting look at how we as humans cope with uncertainty, with knowing that there's nothing we can do to stop what's coming. So it's very powerful. And I think the last part of the book, where this couple are talking about how they felt about their son, how sometimes they feel like they feel guilty about sometimes being so frustrated, angry, sad, disappointed in him, while also knowing that they loved him dearly. It's a really heartbreaking book. It's one you kind of need the tissues for, but it is also one, you kind of need to know what you're getting into, because I had no idea what I was getting into this, just that it was TJ Klune. And you just kind of have to know what you're getting into with TJ Klune sometimes. So this one was a really interesting read, because it's certainly not a romance. So just keep that in mind. Then coming in at 4th on my list was Platform Decay by Martha Wells, which is the most recent Murderbot Diaries book. This one felt like the biggest return to sort of the character of Murderbot. And it fits into all of the continuation of the series in that Murderbot and a number of allies are on a planet.
Please note that in the entire of this little summary of the book, I refer to them being on planet. They're really on a planet, like a ring station around a planet, but it's massive, like it encompasses the entire planet. So that's why I kept saying planet, because in my head that's what I equated it to. Go figure.
They're there to rescue one of Mensa's partners and children. They get caught up in a plot with someone who has been a villain in another one of the books. While trying to escape, said villain dies, and Murderbot has to try and help this ragtag group of people move from one place to the other, while also having been asked as her last wish to rescue the family of this former villain character. I'm trying not to give too much away if you haven't read the series. That means traversing a planet that is unknown to them, that it has a huge amount of civil unrest, that is looking for them. Like, they know that Murderbot is on planet and is taking these people. And so as always, there's a lot of political maneuvering. There is a lot of interpersonal stuff because Murderbot is still uncomfortable being around people. Although one of the interesting things in this book is that after the events of previous books, they say that they've downloaded a mental health monitoring program into their system. And so it just keeps spitting up random things intermittently. And it's like, you think I don't know this? You think I don't know this? But it was quite funny because I think we are really seeing the evolution of Murderbot's character. And we've been seeing it the entire way through the series, but I think this really came to a fore because they have to work collectively. They have to communicate, not just with other technologically created beings, but also with the humans, because the humans are scared. And some of them are very small children. And that is even funnier. So I really, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was great. I thought the pacing on it was really good. I found the world that they were on really interesting because they were like completely different subsections of this planet controlled by different groups, but had completely different environmental preferences, which I really liked. And yeah, it was good fun. Then we have Dearly Departed by Pons, and I kind of debated whether this was sitting in second or in third place. And really, the next two books are kind of equal second for me. And the only reason that this one is probably coming here is because the next book I'm going to talk about after this has more of a personal connection to me than anything else. So Dearly Departed by Pons is a book that's coming out later this year. It is a paranormal romance. We have the former Hades, who has been sent into forced retirement. He's now a funeral director on Earth. And it's his relationship with the small town florist who, lives in the same town as where his funeral home is. Hades has never quite been able to relax into his retirement and is determined to find a loophole in the contract that all the gods signed, forcing them into retirement, until this florist ends up, charming his way into his life. And Hades is initially kind of resistant to that. He kind of wants to be stuck in his own ways. But Levi kind of doesn't let him do that. And it is it's a gorgeous story. It was the highlight and the standout of my Love in the Night readathon. I think it was really, really beautifully done. I'm going to be getting my hands on a physical copy as soon as it's released. It was stunning, and I highly recommend it. If you want a take on a Hades and Persephone style story, because it has all of those elements. It is not a Hades and Persephone retelling by any stretch of the means, but you have Hades and you have someone who works with plants. There are cameos from the other gods in their retirement, also hilarious, and also seeing Hades somehow being forced into actually becoming part of the small town community that he's lived in for a number of years without actually being part of it is also precious. Coming in the next second spot is Sealed the Deal by Lucky Hart, which is the fourth book in the Kings of Heart series. I did talk about this in my Buzzword reading vlog. It features an autistic ace lead character. It is a queer romance, and Andrew has been a very strong presence in the previous books in the series. He's the oldest brother of the four, and he is also the oldest of a set of twins. He's the person in their lives who keeps everything together, and he knows what everything his brothers need. He's there for them all the time, and he's burning out from that because he doesn't let anyone help him. And hardcore relate like that. That is oldest child energy before you add autism to that list. And he ends up in a fake dating relationship with Nicholas, who is a hockey player who has a perpetually bad attitude for the most part. He's got a chip on his shoulder. His parents are very, very rich, very, very prominent, and he wants absolutely nothing to do with them, and he delights in being an absolute pest in their plans. But his father has a big birthday coming up. Nicholas has been told he has to be there, and he wants to take somebody with him so that it can help mitigate some of the interactions that he has with his parents. And Nicholas and Andrew have a couple of people in common who think that maybe Andrew might be able to help in this situation. And it's very funny how this all plays out in terms of Andrew comes up with a contract, because it's like, this is what it's going to be. And he's also very upfront and said, I'm not going to sleep with you. You're not going to get me into bed. I'm ace, etc. like that. It's not happening. And Nicholas is kind of taken aback, like they really shouldn't work. They're the complete opposites on paper. And yet they kind of challenge each other's preconceived notions of what they've thought about the world and relationships in general. Where previously Nicholas has slept around a lot, as he comes to develop really strong feelings for Andrew, he realizes that sex or sex the way that he's had it in the past is not everything. Because Andrew is really upfront when they are in a relationship, in that he's like, there are some things that we can probably do, but there are going to be other things that I may never be comfortable with. And you have to be prepared for that. And I think I talked about in the Buzzword vlog, there is an incredibly great scene where sex is renegotiated in the middle of the act, because what Andrew thought he was willing to do changed completely in the moment, and he had to say, we need to stop. You don't see that representation a lot. There is also Nicholas's understanding and awareness of Andrew and what he needs. And the first time that happens is when Nicholas chooses the date that they're going on, and they go to a rage room, and Andrew just finally, eventually, like it takes a really long time for him to just let loose. And Nicholas realizes how much Andrew is carrying, but also the impact of letting go of all of that, what that impact is on Andrew as someone who is neurodivergent. And it really, I think, highlights just how much he likes Andrew. And that is what sort of sends him spiraling down into I really like this guy. I really like him. And I don't know if I want to let him go at the end of this. So it is a really, really gorgeous little story. I really loved it. I love the representation. Lucky Hart is neurodivergent and ace as well. So there is a lot of personal understanding and experience reflected in there, although, as always, the author states, and we know that no one experience is a monolith of any experience, but it felt incredibly authentic and it resonated with me. And then, shocking absolutely no one, This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews, which is the first book in the Maggie the Undying series. Spoiler alert, this book ends on a cliffhanger, so don't start it if you are going to get really angry about that. How to talk about this book. This book is a fantasy book. It pulls a lot of fantasy tropes. There is a brewing romance in here, but it is not a romance currently. It will be a fantasy with a romance. It will not be a romantasy. I think anyone who reads romantasy should read this, because then you'll get a lesson in how to, grip people into a romance from a very, very early stage. I'm not going to explain this well, and I have to talk about this book on a live show in, 40 minutes. It's a portal fantasy book. It's about Maggie. Maggie finds herself inside the fantasy world of her favorite book series that was never finished. And in order to survive, she needs to find allies, and in order to do that, she begins to give them information about what's coming up. She knows what's going to happen. She knows this story inside and out. She's read it and reread it many, many times. Maggie is all of us who fall into our favorite book worlds and stay there. She also discovers very early on that she can't die in this world. She can be killed, but then she wakes up, and she often wakes up in pain depending on how it is that she died. She needs to find these allies really quickly, and so she starts visiting all the places that she knows in the books and all the characters that she feels like she can give enough information that they will eventually lend her support. What Maggie doesn't realize is that while the world itself exists the way that she knows it in the books, not every event is playing out in the way that was written in the books, because of things that happened as she arrived. And so some of the characters that she meets are characters that she knows, but she doesn't really know them at all. That completely impacts the book. Like, there is a point in this book. So if you pick this up, this book is massive. Like, if you're reading it, if you're someone who can read through large chunks of books, if you get to the 45% mark of this book, you either have to stop and take a break and come back to it another day, or you are going to be up all night reading, because once we hit the 45% of the mark, Maggie's understanding of the world is flipped on her head, and you just have to find out what the hell is going on, because it is amazing. Would I say it's the most perfect book ever? No, I think there's a lot of things going on, but I also know that Ilona Andrews have threaded Easter eggs and bits and pieces all the way through this book. I know I haven't picked up on them, because I'm me, I don't pick up on anything. If there's anything in it that you notice that is a little bit jarring, or even just something you go, well, that wasn't explained. I guarantee it's going to be explained in the next book. I love all of these characters. The characters are amazing. Maggie is great. Like, the more I read it, like Solentine, who is kind of the chief rogue of the book, he's one of my favorite characters. And also Clover, who is a lady's maid who Maggie meets. Like, I have a lot of questions about Clover. I love her dearly. Like, she's a favorite character for sure. But I mean, everyone in here is a favorite character, even the villains. Even the villains I want to know more about because it's Ilona Andrews. So if you haven't read this, what are you doing with your life? The audiobook is fabulous. Immersive reading it is amazing. I've read the ebook, I have listened to the audiobook, and I have immersive read the audiobook and this. Like, I've done it 3 times in a month. That's how much I love this book. And that, my friends, is the end of this month's top 5. In the comments, I would love to know what was your favorite book that you've read recently. Feel free to let me know that down below. Otherwise, feel free to leave a book stack emoji to let me know that you're here. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.